Sutras of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, even if the prediction were accurate, according to the horoscope, it need not fulfill itself because by entering the spiritual life, one opens to a new force, the divine force, which can change one's destiny. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 6, The Book of Fate, Canto 2, The Way of Fate and the Problem of Pain, page 453. His moments center the vast universe. He sees his little self as very God. His little I has swallowed the whole world. His ego has stretched into infinity. His mind, a beat in original nothingness, ciphers his thought on a slate of hourless time. He builds on a mighty vacancy of soul, a huge philosophy of nothingness. In him, Nirvana lives and speaks and acts, impossibly creating a universe. An eternal zero is his formless self, his spirit, the void, impersonal, absolute. Take not that stride, O growing soul of man. Cast not thyself into that night of God. The soul suffering is not eternity's key, or ransom by sorrow heaven's demand on life. O mortal, peer, but ask not for the stroke. Too soon will grief and anguish find thee out. Too enormous is that venture for thy will. Only in limits can man's strength be safe, yet is infinity thy spirit's goal. Its bliss is there behind the world's face of tears. A power is in thee that thou knowest not. Thou art a vessel of the imprisoned spark. It seeks relief from time's envelopment, and while thou shuts it in, the seal is pain. Bliss is the Godhead's crown, eternal, free, unburdened by life's blind mystery of pain. Pain is the signature of the ignorance, attesting the secret God denied by life. Until life finds him, pain can never end. Calm is self's victory, overcoming fate. Dear, thou shalt find at last thy road to bliss. Bliss is the secret stuff of all that lives. Even pain and grief are garbs of world's delight. It hides behind thy sorrow and thy cry, because thy strength is a part and not God's whole. Because afflicted by the little self, thy consciousness forgets to be divine, as it walks in the vague penumbra of the flesh, and cannot bear the world's tremendous touch. Thou criest out and sayest that there is pain, indifference, pain and joy, a triple disguise, attire of the rapturous dancer in the ways, withhold from thee the body of God's bliss. Thy spirit's strength shall make thee one with God. Thy agony shall change to ecstasy. Indifference deepen into infinity's calm, and joy laugh nude on the peaks of the absolute.
Glory to thee, O Lord, supreme master of all realization. give us a faith active and ardent, absolute and unshakable in thy victory.
ॐ शङ्खचक्रधरमदेवं द्विभुजां पीतवाससम् ॐ आदित्यं विष्णुं सूर्यं ब्रह्मां च बृहस्पतिम् ॐ स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धशवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्ये अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ स्वस्ति ॐ स्वस्ति ॐ स्वस्ति
ॐ मध्ये सुधावधिमणिमण्डपरत्नवेदी सिंहासनोपरिगतां परिपीतवदनां पीताम्बरां कनकमाल्यविभूषिताङ्गी देवीं स्मरामि हितमुखगर्वैर्जिह्वाम् ॐ ह्रीं चण्डिके देवी ॐ ह्रीं चण्डिके देवी या गच्छ यतिष्ठ सन्निधे सन्निनुध्यस्व सन्निधा भव अत्राधिष्ठानं कुरु मम पूजा गृहाण
प्रसीद भगवत्यं प्रसीद भक्तवत्सले प्रसादं कुरु मे देवी दुर्गे देवी नमोऽस्तुते
प्रसीद
भगवत्यं प्रसीद भक्तवत्सले प्रसादं कुरु मे देवी दुर्गे देवी नमोऽस्तुते शरणं 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 वीरा शरणं वीरा मम शरणं.
Words of our Divine Mother taken from the collective works of our Divine Mother books, question and answers of 1953, date 1st July 1953, page 139. Question: Sweet Mother, what is the difference between prayer and aspiration? For this, our Divine Mother says there are several kinds of prayers. Aspiration takes the form of that to which one aspires, but most often, especially prayers, clearly takes the form of the one who prays. There is the purely mechanical, material prayer with words which have been learned and are mechanically repeated. That does not signify anything, and that has usually one single result, that of quietening the person who prays. For if a prayer is repeated several times, the words end up by making you calm. Our Divine Mother says there is a prayer which is the spontaneous formula for expressing something precise which one wants to ask for. One prays for this thing or that. One prays for one thing or another. One can pray for somebody or for a circumstance or for oneself. Our Divine Mother says there is a point where aspiration and prayer meet. For there are prayers which are the spontaneous formulation of a lived experience. These spring up already from within the being, like something like that of an expression of a profound experience, which offers thanksgiving for that experience or asks its continuation or asks its explanation. That indeed is quite close to aspiration. But aspiration is not necessarily formulated in words. If it is formulated in words, it is almost a moment of invocation. It is a moment of invocation. You aspire for a certain state. For instance, you have found something in yourself that is not in keeping with your ideal, a moment of darkness and ignorance, perhaps even of ill will, something that's not in harmony with what you want to realize, then that is not going to be formulated in words. That will be like a springing flame, like an offering made of a living experience, asking to grow larger, be magnified, and ever more and more clear and precise. Let me repeat. Our Divine Mother says, you aspire for a certain state. You have found in yourself that is something that is not keeping in with your ideal, a moment of darkness and ignorance or ill will, something that's not in harmony with you, what you want to realize, then that is not going to be formulated in words. That will be like a springing flame, like an offering made of a living experience, asking to grow larger and magnified, more and more clear and precise. All that may be put into words later, but if one tries to remember and note down one's experience, but aspiration always brings up like a flame. Aspiration always springs up like a flame that rises higher and higher and carries in itself the thing one desires to be, what one desires to do or desires to have. Here I use the word desire, but it is here that the word aspire should be. So whatever one aspires to be rises up higher and higher to have, for that does not really have the quality or the form of a desire. It is truly like a great purifying flame of will, and it carries in its core the thing that asks to be realized. Our Divine Mother says, for instance, if you have done something you regret having done, if that has unhappy consequences which keep disturbing things and people are implicated, you do not know the reactions of the others, but you yourself wish that what has been done may take a turn for the best, and that if there is a mistake, it may be understood, and no matter what the mistake, this may be for you an opportunity for a great progress, a greater discipline, a new ascent towards the divine. A door opens on a future that you want to be more clear and true and intense. So all this is gathered there, pointing to the heart, our Divine Mother says, like a force, and then it surges up and rises in a great moment of ascent. And at that time, without the shadow of a formulation, without any words, without any expression, but like a springing flame, that indeed is true aspiration. That may happen 100 or 1,000 times in a day. If one is in that state in which one constantly wants to progress, one wants to be true and fully in harmony with what the divine will wants us of, then that is aspiration. Prayer is more an external thing, generally about a precise fact and always formulated, for it is the formula that makes the prayer. One may have an aspiration and transcribe it as a prayer, but aspiration goes beyond prayer in every way. It is much closer, much more, as it were, self forgetful, living only in the thing one wants to be or do, and the offering of all that one wants to do to the divine. You may pray in order to ask for something. You may pray to thank the divine for what he has given you. That prayer is much greater. It has been called as an act of thanksgiving. You may pray in gratitude for the aspect of kindness the divine has shown you, for what he has done for you, for what you see in him, the praise you want to offer him. And all this may take the form of a prayer. It is decidedly the highest prayer, for it is not exclusively preoccupied with oneself. It is not an egoistic prayer. Our Divine Mother says, certainly one may have an aspiration in all the domains, but the very center of aspiration is in the psychic being. While one may pray in all the domains, and the prayer belongs to the domain in which one prays, one may make purely material, physical, vital, or mental prayer, psychic prayer, and spiritual prayers. Each has its own special character and value. There is a kind of prayer at once spontaneous, unselfish, which is like a great call, usually not for one's own self personally, but like something that may be called an intercession with the divine. It is extremely powerful. I have had countless instances of things which have been realized almost instantaneously due to prayers of this kind. It implies a great faith, a great ardor, a great sincerity and simplicity of the heart, something that does not calculate, that does not plan or bargain, does not give with the idea of receiving in exchange. The majority of men give with one hand and hold out the other to get something in exchange. The largest number of prayers are that sort, but there are prayers of the kind where acts of thanksgiving or a kind of canticle, they are all good. But to be more clearer, we may say that prayer is always formulated in words. It's a formulated thing, but one may aspire. But it is difficult to pray without praying to someone, the divine. The idea there is someone who knows all can be done by that someone unless we pray to the divine, which is not the custom. But one can aspire for something without having any faith in the divine. There are people who do not believe in the existence of a God but believe in progress. They have the idea that the world is in constant progress and that this progress will go on infinitely without stopping towards a greater good. These people can have a very great aspiration for progress because they do not even need the idea of a divine existence. Aspiration necessarily implies a faith, but not necessarily faith in the divine, while prayer cannot exist if it is not addressed to a divine. And prayer to what? One does not pray to something that has no personality. One prays to someone who can hear us. If there is nobody to hear us, how could one pray? Hence, if one prays, this means that even when one does not acknowledge it, one has the faith in somebody infinitely higher than oneself, infinitely more powerful, who can change the destiny and change us. And if one prays so as to be heard, this is the essential difference. A force who can hear you and answer you. A realization is what is needed in aspiration. To aspire, it is not necessary to direct the aspiration to someone or towards someone. One has an aspiration for a certain state of being, either for knowledge, realization, state of consciousness. One aspires for something, but it is not necessarily a prayer, says our Divine Mother. 7th, 1916, Tokyo. Long months have gone by in which nothing could be said. It was a period of transition, of passing from one equilibrium to another, vaster and more complete. The outer circumstances were manifold and new, as if the being needed to accumulate many perceptions and observations in order to give a more extensive and complex base to its experience. But being entirely plunged within this experience, it did not have the necessary perspective to see it as a whole, to know what it was, and above all, where it was leading. Suddenly, on the 5th of June, the veil was rent and there was light in my consciousness. When I contemplated Thee in Thy individual form, O Lord of eternity, and implore Thee to take possession of Thy kingdom of the flesh, Thou didst set again into motion, into activity, this vital form which for the necessity of development and unification had been living for years in a passivity that was receptive and harmonious but alien to all active manifestation of Thy will. This return to activity meant a completely new adaptation of the vital instrument, for its natural tendency is always to resume action with its old habits and methods. This period of adaptation was long, painful, sometimes obscure, though behind the perception of Thy presence and perfect surrender to Thy law were immutable and quite strongly conscious for any disturbance to shake the being. Gradually, the vital being grew accustomed to find harmony in the intensest action as it had in passive surrender. And once this harmony was sufficiently established, there was light again in all parts of the being, and the consciousness of what had happened became complete. Now, in the heart of action, the vital being has discovered the perception of infinity and eternity. It can perceive Thy supreme beauty and live it in all sensations and all forms, even in its every sensation, extended, active, fully developed, to feel contrary sensations at the same time. Always it perceives Thee. It is unaware, however, that this is only one stage, and it bows before Thee in a profound adoration and tells Thee, Lord, Thou hast taken up Thy instrument again and will to use it for Thy action. The instrument knows its perfection and impurity and implores Thy mercy to perfect and purify it, so that day by day, through a progressive disappearance of all its preferences and limitations, it may be able to manifest Thee more integrally.